Welcome to episode 6 of Whole Lot of Wolves. We're your hosts. I'm Joshua Buckley.
And I'm Paul LePage.
And we have a slight departure from our usual Wolves guest this week. We're still joined by a Wolves fan, Ryan Gray, who lives in Rhode Island. But Ryan's background is a little different, and he's going to shine a slightly different light on the Wolves compared to previous guests. So, Ryan, how are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me. I'll try my best to have a different light on it. I'll do my best for you.
So talk a little bit about your background and your skill set.
Okay. Well, start with my background. I'm originally from a little village in England called Great Worley, which is just outside Cannock. So big shout out to Cannock Wolves back home. Did a lot of travelling for away days with them. And I'm now in the States, but I previously worked, it was around about 7 or 8 years with what is now Wolves Foundation. It was Wolves Community Trust back then. So off and on with them for around about 7 or 8 years, coaching in the community and also coaching the development centre with trying to push kids on into potentially getting into the academy and stuff like that. So it was very varied on the roles that I had at Wolves. So yeah, I was there from 17. I was a YTS, which is going back a little bit now. It's a youth training scheme. So yeah, I was there from 17 to around about 25, and in between that, I had a few stints over here coaching summer programs and back and forth to the States and stuff. And now I'm full time in the States. This will be 2.5 years now. I'm currently coaching at New England Revolution on the academy side, and I'm also coaching for a club team, Bayside FC in East Providence, Rhode Island. So yeah, that's my current background.
So can you tell us that period attached to the Wolves? Can you tell us about wearing a big hairy suit with a tail?
Yeah, I was predominantly the away mascot. I was probably the away Wolves Wolfie. My best time as Wolfie was we got promoted back into the Premier League, and our first away win was Wigan away, and I was the guy in the middle of the centre circle doing keepy ups with George Coady and Richard Stearman at half time. And just the atmosphere was insane. I came out at the start of the game trying to G the fans up and all that stuff. It was like a bit of an out-of-body experience, really. I'm there in front of, it was absolutely packed. There's 5,000 in that stand behind the goal there, and I'm just like G'ing them up, and I'm getting Wolfie chants and all that stuff. It was insane. It was so it was so good, so surreal. But went back in to go and get changed. Missed the goal, so I missed the goal in the end. Come back out for half time and stuff like that. It was unbelievable. We did a few. I also went to Sunderland away, Portsmouth away. I did a couple at home. I did Man United at home and West Ham. I gave the West Ham fans some abuse and stuff like that. But I've also had some appearances at Wendy as well. So sometimes when you've seen, if Wendy's been taller than Wolfie, then I was Wendy.
Cross-dressing mascot style, yeah, we can dig it.
Yeah,
we could dig it.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I also did a pre-season friendly at Hearts as well, which was a while ago. So I've done I've crossed the country and crossed some borders as Wolfie and Wendy. So
So I'm sure you probably have thoughts then on Arsenal getting rid of their mascot.
Yeah, which is a bit surreal, really. Yeah, I'm actually on one of my coaching courses now, and one of the guys that's on the coaching course with me is an analyst for Arsenal. And he was talking to me about it, and he couldn't believe that they've just paid all this money for all their players. That parties come in for 45 mil, and they've just paid Ozil a 8 million loyalty bonus the other day, but they can't pay their mascots. So
I did see that Ozil offered to pay his whole season
apparently
salary, so good for him.
Yeah, apparently he's back in. Apparently the mascot is back, and Ozil is paying his wages for as long as he's there.
Well, he's got to do something for the team because otherwise he's just sitting on the bench, right?
I don't even think he's on the bench. He's in the stand, isn't he? He doesn't even make the bench.
Last episode, Ryan, we talked a little bit about how prospects come through the academy and how the first team structure looks to permeate down through the rest of the club. Can you share some tactical insight about this setup and really how it shapes the ethos and how we play?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it really starts with the culture before it gets into the tactical side of it. I mean, it comes from the top and it filters down. I know the under-23s play the same system, and they've got their sweeper in the young Portuguese. Like, is it Marquez that plays? Is now the sweeper, so they're playing the same system. I know the women's team play the same system as well. With Dan McNamara over there, they play the same system. And as I said, it's more of a cultural thing, and it's Nuno putting in his philosophy. I've read a lot of things about Nuno when he was doing his coaching courses. When he was doing his sessions, this is how he would do his sessions. So he's stuck with him all the way through. A lot of three at the back, he's kind of seen as a bit negative, but it depends on how you use it. Obviously, with the 3-5-2 that we've used predominantly, it's more for when you're playing the big teams and you want to be a little bit more defensive. And the idea is you're kind of putting in more lines in the field. The more lines you put in the field, the harder it is to obviously break us down. Your main positions that you need is obviously Coady sits back there in your three. He's like your sweeper stopper kind of quarterback role with the three. And then you've got your two centre backs that come in and make like a V shape. And then you've got your defensive midfielders, which is another line. So you've obviously got your goalkeeper, your defensive line. Your holding midfield is 3 lines. Your wing backs is in line with that. And then your attacking line. So you've got like 4 or 5 lines that you've got to try and get through with the 3-5-2. So it's more of a, as I said, more of a defensive structure with that. But it's very fluid. If you've got that, which we haven't used yet, is if we had that number 10, which we haven't really used. If we used to have that, it could quite easily go into a 3-4-3 in the flow. But I don't really see anybody at the minute. Obviously, Gibbs White's doing it at the moment at Swansea. Hopefully, he can keep doing that and then come back to us. But the 3-4-3 is difficult because it opens us up a little bit more because you haven't quite got that protecting the back three. So it's leaving a bigger gap in between your defensive line and your midfield line. And it's obviously, again, with the lines, you've obviously got less lines in the field. With your 3-4-3, you've only got 3 lines, creates more space in the gaps. But hopefully that's more of it is a more attacking formation, but it can also quickly go back into a 3-5-1 kind of thing when we've lost the ball. So your Traore's, if he's playing the right attacking side, and then you've got maybe Podence or Neto on the other side, they would then come in, and then you've got your 3-5-1. But attacking wise, as soon as we've got the ball, we like to make the field as big as possible. And as I say, those wing backs are huge, which I think is why we've struggled a little bit, because obviously Doherty and Johnny knew the system like the back of their hand because they've had that exposure on the training field and they've had years of doing it and being drilled into it. It's going to take time for Semedo, and it's going to take, I mean, Vinagra's gone now. It's also going to take time for the young lad that's coming from France. It's going to take him time, but Nuno hasn't really got the luxury like he likes to do with his new signings, where you don't see them for 3 months. He hasn't got that luxury at the minute, and the other side of it, he hasn't got the time on the training field either. Obviously, with the current pandemic going on, which is everyone's dealing with. Yes, we don't have Europe, but all these international games that are coming in now. I mean, England have had 3 games in 6-7 days or whatever. It's a lot, and they just having that time on the training field to drill in that work ethic and culture that Nuno tries to enforce in all of his players. He just hasn't got the time, and I think you're not going to see the best of Wolves until maybe after Christmas, until we've got a little bit of time to get together. And January is not too far away, so if we need to add people, we've also got a bit of. It's only 7 weeks away, so hopefully we can add in there, and we'll see what we have from that.
There seems a little talk of this new cycle and maybe going away from a counter-attacking side to one that holds possession a little bit more. Yeah. Do you see that the 5-3-2 is kind of here to stay, but really putting the emphasis on Semedo and Out Nuri to be very offensive when it comes to being the wing backs and getting creativity and attacking the opposition from the flanks a little bit more.
I think that's obviously going to be really important, but I also think we need that. It's got to go through the middle a little bit more. We haven't really got that creative midfielder. You look at Neves' stats, and he scored 1 goal in 50-something appearances, and Martinho's the same. Then Donker chipped in with a couple, but he's not your creative midfielder. He's more of your enforcer. I think Neves has the potential to have that creative role, but he just needs to be 10, 15 yards up the field to be in that role. I really think we need that creative, not necessarily a 10, but the 3 which is going to emphasise the keeping possession of the ball a little bit more. Out wide's not necessarily us keeping the ball. Out wide's getting it out wide quick to then bring it back inside. But the midfield 3 is where the possession base is going to come from, I believe.
Kind of a big debate amongst a lot of Wolves fans is, where is Adama Traore best used and in what formation?
See, we might already have the number 10 in the squad. I think Traore will be great in the 10 role.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just because he could be just behind the centre forward, and he likes to pick the ball up and run at people. I think with him being at wing back, he starts in too deep of a role.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to put him in behind and possibly just slightly ahead of Neves, I think if he was to pick up the ball there from Neves or from your Coadys in there, he can turn and he would frighten defences to death. I played as a defender, and the thing that defenders hate is speed, and that's what he's got. I think if we could get Traore there on the half turn, and if we can get that ball into him quickly in that connection of the middle third and the attacking third there, if we can get him in there, I think he could be incredibly dangerous in that 10 role.
So you'd rather see him then run the 3-5-2 with Adama at the 10 role instead of 3-4-3 with him out wide?
Yeah, because I think because we've tried him as a centre forward with Jimenez, and it's not quite worked because he's not the kind of player to hold the ball up. He likes to be behind the play so he can run at it. I think the 10 role could be really good because he could pick up that pocket of space in between the defensive line and the midfield line. If he can get in between, not necessarily give him a free role, but if we can get him in there and turn and run at defenders, it's a defender's worst nightmare. And there's not that many centre backs. As it being a centre back, you're not necessarily that mobile. And if you're Adama Traore, you use your speed and your power. I think he'd be frightening down the middle, a little bit deeper than the 9.
I think there was some clips from his Spain game, the first one, where he was picking the ball up, is slightly more tucked in off the right-hand side and running more centrally, and he jumped over a couple of challenges. I think knocked another guy off. So I think there's potential for that as well, as more as either a 10 or a tucked in midfielder. And then I'm always thinking back to that run he made against Sevilla to earn the penalty when he took off and he was gone. If he's picking that ball up just ahead of the centre circle and the pitch is opening up for him, then it's exactly what you say in terms of running at people, and pace frightens you. And what's more difficult there is for teams to double up on him, because if they're bringing 2 guys in that are more central, that's just making many more pockets of space to be exploited elsewhere. So potentially more difficult to defend against.
Yeah, well, if you see Traore, there's normally 2 or 3 players on him, and as you say, if those players come into him in the middle, that is now creating the space for your wing backs to then exploit the space out wide. It's not necessarily just having. He's more of a, if he doesn't get the ball, he's a decoy, because he's allowing players to come towards him. And even as you said, if he was playing as a wide role, but if he tucks in a little bit, that then allows the wing back to then go around and overlap and then create the chances.
That's very interesting. What about Pedro Neto? Do you think he could fill that role as a 10? That's Paul's dream right there.
It better be, because I just ordered the new jersey. I got the Portuguese one with Neto 7 on the back because I'm cheap. I only buy 4 letters and 1 number. But with free international delivery. I wasn't letting that.
I know I saw that. Yeah,
yesterday.
absolutely. I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't have one sitting player, and depending on how attacking you want to be, if you were to have, you could still play your 3-5-2 potentially, but having one sitting player, and you could have two advanced players just in front, and then your wing backs would maybe tuck in a little bit more and not be as adventurous going forward. But then that just gives you two advanced players in the middle, then that they could have the central to the right channel, and the other guy could have the central to the left channel, and give them that freedom in there. There's plenty of ins and outs that they can move around. It's just implementing that style again and having that time.
What about Semedo coming in? We know he was a traditional right back for Barcelona. Didn't have much time on the practice field. Then he was off to international duty. How long do you think it's going to take him to really settle into this system?
Well, I think he's got the advantage of playing with a lot of the players for the national team. There's no way that he's come into this not knowing how we play, how we set up, because he would have been speaking to your Martinhos and Neves on international duty, and they probably want the people that have actually, what's the word, kind of recruited him on international duty. It's probably come from there, and I'm sure he would have asked questions and wanting to know what his role was. So I don't think necessarily not having the time on the training floor will be so bad with him, because he would have had information from his teammates away. And I mean, Barcelona, when they play traditionally with their two centre backs, their wing back, their full backs are normally as high up as our wing backs anyway. So I don't think it's necessarily that much of a difference in role.
Parado, así está Venezuela. Las indicaciones de Dudamel, roba Hurtado y a correr. Se va el tanque Hurtado. Hurtado!
It has been international week with most of our team off to Portugal, or Damo is in Spain. And of course, Connor Coady with England. This is you guys' territory. Go for it. How exciting has that been?
I'm not quite old enough to have seen Bully play for England, but I mean, we had Matt Jarvis, but he only had one cap and come on as a substitute. But just seeing your captain and your leader and one of your main players for the club do so well and integrate himself so well into the national setup and even scoring a goal I was just brimming with pride. Really, it's not very often you see I'm quite used to not having any international players playing for the Wolves, especially for England, and to go and see him score was just fantastic. It's so good, and the pride that you could see come out of him and the passion come out of him when he scored was just so good to see.
Everything he's done in front of the media, he's just come across so well, and people have bought into him so much, and he's become a real favourite across the nation. So to top that off with a goal and playing with a smile on your face, it's real. What we know is kind of Roy the Rover stuff, that it's what all boys have dreamt of growing up, and there he goes and does it at Wembley. Yeah. I think that's fantastic. We've got a little affinity to him in Houston, so for me at times it was like it was a close family member that was doing well. I was working when he scored, and I just felt my phone in my pocket was just going crazy, and it was everyone getting in touch saying Coady scored. So I was in meetings taking a step back and looking, and it was amazing. So pleased for him, so pleased that it's represented Wolves in such a good light. And yeah, it's just everything he's done, even the game today, he's pretty much covered himself in glory. The newspaper's saying that he's become even already part of the leadership structure within the squad. I think that just sums up the guy completely. And I think Southgate would be remiss of Southgate not to have him as a permanent fixture in the squad moving forwards. That might not necessarily be a starter if he's not playing three at the back. If he's playing three at the back, Cody's got to start for sure.
Well, the way Maguire's playing too, even if it's just 2 in the back.
The way, or the way Maguire's not playing,
Yeah.
which is more accurate.
Don't even get me started on Maguire. Oh my goodness.
Do you guys think that Connor Coady could be starting in Euros next summer?
If he's going to play 3 at the back, I think so. What I don't understand up to this point, that if he's going to use that formation, and this is what was so frustrating about Sunday, that you're not going to pick the guy who's played that specialist sweeper position week in, week out in the Premier League for 2 full seasons, never missed a minute, and you're not going to play him. You're going to play someone who's used to a traditional back 4. That makes no sense. And Eric Dyer's just a glorified defensive midfielder. He hasn't got the nous to play centre-back at international level. I'm convinced about that. Maguire's out of form. Mings has done okay, but there's definite scope for Coady to be the starter if it's a 3, no question.
If Cody's going to play, especially international level, he needs speed around him because he's not necessarily the quickest player in the world. I know Kyle Walker's played on the right side of the 3, which may help, but he's not a centre back. But with Coady, Dyer, and Maguire, I've seen cruise ships turn quicker than those 3. We can't have that. I mean, are they good players? Yes. But if you were going to play Spain and put Adama Traore would have absolute field day against those 3, wouldn't he?
Would you like to hear your company's name in one of these sections, broadcast to a captive group of soccer fans across North America? Get in touch for information on our packages, including presenting sponsor, segment sponsors and paid partnerships on social media by emailing hello@wholelotofwolves.com.
So now it's on to previewing the upcoming game against Leeds on Monday. And we're joined by David. He's a Leeds fan from Baltimore, Maryland. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. And thanks to the DU Football Show for putting this together, making the intros.
Shout out to those guys, listeners. If you want to get a podcast that gives a really good summary of what's happened in the EPL that previous week, then definitely check out and subscribe to the DU United Football Show. It's very good. It's funny. The guys actually know what they're talking about most of the times. There's not too much of an Everton and Arsenal bias, but it's a good listen. I recommend it.
So, David, how does it feel to be back in the Premier League?
I've only been a fan since 2012, so this is the first time I've been a fan of a Premier League team, and it feels pretty good. Feels really good.
That's awesome. So you obviously have to be pleased with the way things are going right now. I mean, you guys have come out of the gates really strong.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Like before the season started, I would have been happy with 4 points in these first 5 matches, and we already have 7 points in the first 4. So they've exceeded my expectations. Fulham was I thought they had to get 3 points, and then I thought we could get a result against Sheffield or Wolves, and we beat Sheffield and we got a result against City, so I'm over the moon.
So with Wolves turning up to Ellen Road on Monday, what can we expect coming up against a Bielsa's Leeds side for the first time, especially with you at home? What can we expect in terms of style of play and what we'll be facing?
So I think they're going to line up 4-1-4-1. Generally, they try to go with having one more center back than the opposition has strikers. And I know Wolves can kind of go 3 up top or 2 up top, either 3-5-2 or 3-4-3. I think whatever Wolves do, Leeds will match. So Luke Ayling, who usually plays right back, can kind of slot in at center back. And Stuart Dallas, who plays left back, can push up a bit. Unfortunately, Liam Cooper, who's our club captain, got a knock in international duty with Scotland. And Diego Llorente is out for 3 weeks as he got hurt in international duty with Spain, which is something I thought I would never say as a Leeds fan. Could be a little threadbare at center back, but they're whatever, home or away, they're going to possess the ball, try to play out of the back, man mark all over the pitch.
Is it more a case of you, not that you don't worry about the opposition so much, but you set out to win first and it kind of really doesn't matter what the opponent's going to do because you're going to game plan accordingly?
So Bielsa, his whole philosophy is I have a plan A, and then my plan B is just do plan A better.
Got you.
So, I mean, Liverpool and City, they outpossessed Liverpool and City, which is pretty unbelievable. I wouldn't have even expected that. They're going to keep trying to possess. They're going to keep trying to play. They're going to keep trying to attack. And I mean, City and Liverpool are the obvious examples of when you would probably change that up, and they didn't. So, Wolves, I know, are more of a counterattacking team. So you would think that Leeds probably has at least 60% of the ball. But can they break Wolves down? I don't know. Wolves usually are a tough side to break down.
So you guys have a familiar face who we're well aware of, and that's Costa. And he's enjoyed a really great start to the season. So who are the other danger men we have to worry about?
Yeah, Helder Costa, he's been better than I thought he would be to start, because I know Wolves kind of let him go because he was a bit inconsistent in the Prem, couldn't really get game time. And everyone was really good last year, but if I had to pick someone who was the least best, it probably actually would have been him. But he's looked really good to start the season. He's on the right wing. You have Jack Harrison on the left wing, who is an interesting story. He started out in the Man U Academy, and when he was in high school, his mom thought he should get an education because, not many academy players make it to professional. So he went to a boarding school in Massachusetts, ended up at Wake Forest, got drafted #1 overall in the MLS. Man City signed him, and then he kind of went on loan at Middlesbrough with Tony Pulis and didn't get any game time. And then we've had him since Bielsa's taken over, and he's been really good for us. He scored a great goal against Liverpool, cut inside on Trent Alexander-Arnold, cut inside of Joe Gomez, beat Alisson near post, assisted the game winner against Sheffield. So he runs his ass off all game long. He'll track back on defense. So he'll follow, I guess, who's your right back now?
Semedo.
That's right. Yeah, so he'll follow Semedo. Like, he's not going to – Semedo will get a run, but it's not going to be easy. Patrick Bamford's our striker. He scored 3 goals in the first 4 matches. And kind of his finishing has always been his bugaboo. Like, Leeds fans are – all the smart ones say, he does all the little things, but put the ball in the goal. And so far he's done that. So if he can keep this up, Leeds will be a tough out for anyone.
So you talked about that fantastic start and how it's exceeded expectations to date. Overall, what are your expectations for the season in full?
I thought before the season that relegation wouldn't be a problem. I thought they'd finish 12th. So far, I look pretty smart. I think they can compete for top half. They've shown they can play their game against Liverpool and City. If you can play it against them, you can play it against anyone. Obviously, it's the Premier League. You're going to lose a few matches. You're going to draw a few matches. But overall, I think they'll be right there, 12th, 10th, somewhere around there.
Are you hoping Russell Crowe narrates this season as well?
Yeah, he might as well. I mean, he's a big Leeds fan. Just, you can't mess with tradition either.
Well, thanks very much. We really appreciate your time coming on, David. We do wish all of our opposition guests the very best for the season, apart from the 2 times that they play the Wolves, and especially when you play West Brom and Aston Villa as well. You can definitely turn those guys over, no problems there.
I believe we play Villa after Wolves, and I can't stand Villa either. They rubbed us wrong in the Championship, so I want to get them. I really want to get them. But thanks for having me on, and best of luck to Wolves. Like, I rate Nuno quite highly, and I rate Wolves in general highly. They're hard to beat. They're really tough against the top 6. So honestly, it's going to be a 3-way coin flip. Wolves win, Leeds win, draw. It could be either of those 3.
Thanks once again.
Thanks, guys.
Ryan, have you studied Leeds' formation that they're going to run, and what are you expecting their attacking style to be like?
Well, from doing a lot of study on Bielsa, I know that he'll know our lineup before we know our lineup. So he's very
because he's got a spy in the bushes.
probably on top of Compton. He's just looking down, but he's so knowledgeable of what's going on, and he's a great coach. So I think he's gonna try and nullify us a little bit, which obviously will be with our pace, with Traore and out wide, like the Leeds guy said, with they have a plan A and a better plan A. I don't know. I think we're good at finding the weakness of teams we play against, especially the big teams. I know Leeds aren't a big team necessarily as your Man Cities and all that, but the way they play is like a big team, which I think may help us, where we can exploit, especially in behind with our pace, because they're going to keep the ball and they're going to play on the edge of our penalty box. And if we can use our speed, I don't see Liam Cooper or Ayling getting anywhere near our speed. I'd like to think our counter-attacking game may unstuck Bielsa a little bit. I'm hoping, anyway.
I was looking at it a bit negatively, but I'm turning it half glass full at the moment, because I think they haven't expected to have such a good start. And they may be looking towards us, that we're obviously a good side and we're up there, but we're not a top 6 team. So I think with that start, they may be looking at us and thinking, oh, it's kind of potential for an easier path to get 3 points, which could work into our favour if we're able to really turn up and play that counter-attacking style more as the underdog. And Ellen Road, big pitch, plenty of space to exploit. So maybe they could get a little bit cocky and think they're in for a more easier opponent, and that could play into our hands a little, like what you say.
Yeah, I think 3-5-2 is the way to go against Leeds. Is where, again, like we spoke about earlier, he's getting the lines in the field. The more lines we have in the field, they like to pop it around and keep it really close. It just makes it more difficult for them to get the ball forward, and we can get compact, we can stay together and force them into that mistake and then counter them. So I'm hoping that's the way forward.
Who would you start up top with, Raul?
I mean, I don't mind Neto coming in there and helping him, but I mean, we're pretty scarce for options, really, aren't we? We've only got like 9 players, so.
Yeah, because I like Podence a lot, but when he kind of moves a little more inside, I wonder if that kind of takes away from his strengths.
Yeah, I mean, I think Neto. I think it might be Neto, and he might drop a little bit deeper to then come and pick the ball up. But I'd love to see Traoré drop that little bit deeper, not necessarily be right up with Jimenez, but just drop in and have that outlet there. But I don't think he's quite there yet. I don't think he trusts him that much to put him in the middle.
I'd like to see Podence exploit that gap around the edge of the box more, like he did towards the back end of last season when he won the penalty against Everton and he got the goal against Palace. I think with time, that's where better understanding could happen with Raul as well, that if he knows he's there or thereabouts, there's that opportunity for kind of quick 1-2s to come off, or Podence gets the ball and he's able to kind of win a foul in a dangerous position or a penalty. I think it's still tricky that this side's still forming, and we don't, it's not settled, and we don't know ideal positions as yet. So coming back from an international week is going to exacerbate it even more. I think that who played minutes when they're away, how fresh are they when they come back? Yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing the team sheet when that gets announced on Monday.
Yeah, with you saying that, I mean, I know Neto played for the under-21s and scored a screamer and played there. So Podence hasn't played yet, so he may get the nod over Neto because he didn't play. So it might be Podence that comes in.
And who knows, with this crazy season, this international break could be a good thing. It could be like a mini pre-season where you've got guys getting 90 minutes under their belts and match sharpness and taking it up a notch, where if we'd have been at home for a week just on the training ground, may not have got that intensity to keep it up. So yeah, it's another one. Who knows? We could see a bunch of different things come Monday, I think.
Yeah, we've got so many options, but not many options, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. Well, let's get predictions. Ryan, we'll start with you.
I can never back against the Wolves, really. So I'm gonna go with a 1-0 win.
Impressive. Paul, what are you thinking?
I think now, given the way that Leeds are playing, I'd be really happy with a point away. but I think it's going to be entertaining and high scoring, and I'm going to go a crazy 3-3.
Wow.
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
I think, though, Paul, we're on the same wavelength again because Leeds has scared me. They've scared me really since the beginning of the year. I thought they'd be a surprise one, and they've proved it so far. I'm going to say I think Leeds might win 2-1. I hope I'm wrong, though.
We got all the bases covered, so one of us is going to be right.
I hope I'm wrong.
And it's a Monday afternoon kickoff, 2 p.m. Central Time. Josh, have you seen what channel it's on yet? Are we on normal NBC? Are we on Peacock? Is it Russian roulette to find out where we'll actually be playing?
Man, I wish it was a lot easier for them to have the schedule released. I think it's on Sports Network, though. NBC Sports Network.
I think it tends to be when it's that Monday night game. And yeah, just in general, I know, again, it's crazy times. We can't really do much about it, but the chopping and changing of the fixtures and more Sunday games and Saturday, and trying to, especially for us over here, and fitting it in with schedules and what our plans are and other sports, it's a bit crazy at the moment. I want to certainly get back to normality and a few Saturday morning kickoffs with a nice cup of coffee and breakfast, and away we go. So
the midweeks actually work perfect for me. I love it when we play midweeks because I'm at home in the day, and obviously I coach of an evening when it's a 2 o'clock kickoff, and I'm loving it.
We had got a no stupid question this week, Paul, and this one came from a guest that we had a few weeks ago, Dan John, and this is one we can probably all help answer here. With the big news about Ronaldo getting COVID and half our team being in the same camp as, what would our first team look like if we didn't have any Portuguese players because they're all out for COVID?
If there was one person in that whole squad I would have never anticipated contracting COVID, would be Ronaldo, because he's way too much of a pretty boy. I thought he'd be washing his hands every opportunity, and he'd have a little sanitizer in his pocket, and I think the smell of his cologne would have kept any bad germs away from him. So I'm really surprised about that. I think we'd be starting with Coady, and Coady would be playing rush back goalkeeper as well. So
have to bring the women's team in. Have to play the women's team instead.
They're doing okay. So yeah, we can fill some gaps there, but. Yeah, it would certainly be an interesting sight, a Wolves team with no Portuguese players in it.
We'd probably have Saiz, who showed he could play wing back. He would probably be playing up top with Raul.
That is stretching the flexibility to the max there, I think.
Max Kilmer might get some minutes then, though.
Yeah, that's true. At least the U21s haven't been in that camp, so we'd still have Neto, we'd still have Vitina, who I'd like to see him soon. He had a nice little assist for Neto there in the U21, so
he might be that ball playing central midfielder that we need to connect everything.
So let's hope that everybody continues to test negative. I think if there was going to be a scare that there would be more positives, they wouldn't have played on Wednesday. So the fact that they played out there, I felt like was a good sign. Finally, it's over to you, Ryan. Share with your listeners how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so on my social medias, on Facebook, I'm just Ryan Gray, and on Instagram, I'm RGSoccer26. Just posting stuff about my coaching really on there. I also do a podcast myself. It's the Coach's View Soccer Podcast, and you can get that on all your platforms, iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff. And on Instagram and Facebook, that is at the Coach's View Poddy, and on Twitter, needs a little bit of love, that is at Coach's View Pod. So please, if you want to hear some coaching content, we've had some really good guests on, and we had Dan McNamara on as well, the Wolves women manager. So if any of the Wolves fans want to go and listen to that, it's a good chat with Dan there.
Appreciate your time. We, of course, hope to invite you back on and have you joining us on a whole lot of Wolves in the future again as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you guys for having me on, and I've been listening to the podcast every week so far. So I'm an avid fan, and and hopefully I can spread it around Rhode Island. I need someone to watch the Wolves with me because everyone's so far away. My wife's all out, doesn't want anything to do with it, so I need someone to watch the game with me.
Well, you can come visit us in Houston.
Yeah, absolutely. That might have to be my next trip.
Or if there's any Lonely Hearts Wolves fans out there in Rhode Island, you can contact Ryan, and you two can be the founding members of Rhode Island Wolves as well. So
there you go. I'm currently the only Rhode Island Wolf at the moment that I know of.
Yeah, the Rhode Island Wolfie.
Yeah, the lone Wolfie. Yeah, at the moment.
So we'll be back, listeners, next week. We'll have a recap of the Leeds game. We'll review that and talk everyone through how it goes on Monday. We thank you always for your continued support. So if you're listening for the first time to Whole Lot of Wolves, please subscribe, like, share the podcast. If you can, give us a 5-star review on your podcast listening platform of choice. This helps a bunch with exposure. Once again, thank you, and we'll catch up with you next week.